Meat, the muscles of mammals, is the richest, most energy-packed food you can get. And we human beings have set aside great areas of the countryside just in order to produce it. In this case, mutton.
And there is other meat to be had here too. Rabbits. We sometimes eat these as well, but today rabbits are more in danger from another hunter. The stoat. It's tiny, less than a foot long. But nonetheless, it's a skilled and determined killer. Fangs, stabbed into the rabbit's neck, have crushed the back of its skull. The rabbit weighs 10 times as much as the stoat, but the stoat prefers to eat in privacy. It's those daggers at the front of the jaw that killed the rabbit. Now, triangular blades farther back, like secateurs, help the stoat to cut meat away from bone. Those two kinds of teeth are the hallmark of all meat eaters, small and large. There are two great tribes of carnivores. There are the cats and there are the dogs. Both are skilled in the art of stalking. And both have a lethal pounce. The serval is so athletic it can sometimes bring down birds. It's one of the smallest of the cats, and this is the biggest. The Siberian tiger, 10 feet long from nose to tail. The earliest fossils of meat-eating mammals, about 50 million years old, have been found in North America. It seems that they lived up in the trees hunting birds. One of their descendants, the marten, still does. Its paws are long, but they can be partly retracted, which helps to keep them sharp, and they give it a superb grip. But other prey sometimes tempts it down from the trees. And it's on the ground that most meat eaters today go hunting. Dogs, descendants of those North American tree dwellers, soon spread right round the world, and as they did, so their bodies changed to suit their new homes. This is the Sahara. The dog that lives here is the smallest of all the foxes, the fennec. Its huge ears help it to avoid overheating. Here it's so dry that moisture is very precious, and the fennec doesn't waste it on sweat. Instead, it cools its blood by circulating it through capillaries close to the surface of its immense ears, which act like car radiators. But these enormous ears also help it detect the tiniest sounds, even faint scrabblings in the sand. The larva of a beetle is full of juice, just what the fennec needs, for it's seldom able to drink. The desert viper is very small as snakes go, but it's a bigger meal than a beetle grub. It's also a much more dangerous one. First, those poison fangs must be put out of action. The snake's venom will only kill if it gets into the bloodstream. So, providing the fennec has no cut in its mouth, the poison in its meal will cause it no harm. Dogs in a cold climate have a rather different shape. Long ears will get frostbitten, so the Arctic fox has very short ones. Its fur is particularly long, with a dense underlayer that keeps it warm even in the worst Arctic weather. It's also white, good camouflage. In summer, it changes its coat to a thinner, darker one. Summer is breeding time, and this pair's cubs are already half-grown. There's no shortage of food at this time of the year. In fact, there's a glut. Seabirds are nesting on the cliffs in thousands. The guillemots high up on their ledges are, for the most part, beyond the fox's reach. But the foxes know that the chicks can't stay perched up there forever. They have to fly down to the sea. But this is their first flight, and the sea is a long way away. Some don't get that far. Food for the cubs. And and still they come. There's far more food now than the foxes and their cubs can eat. Indeed, there's sometimes even more than they can carry. But these good times won't last forever. So now the Arctic fox does what many dogs do. It buries the surplus, and in this cold climate the meat will stay tolerably fresh for months. Birds are not the only sea-going animals that come to land to breed and assemble in great numbers. Down on the southwestern shores of Africa in Namibia, there are huge breeding colonies of sea mammals.
You might think that these fur seals would be particularly sensitive to danger that comes from the sea, but in fact they are most easily alarmed if you approach them from the land, and since I don't want to scare them, I have to move with great care. Their pups are just up here.
And they still haven't seen me.
These little pups are only a day or maybe 2 days old.
It's so hot that their mothers have gone to sea to cool off, so their babies are now unprotected. But I'd better retreat before someone raises the alarm.
From here, I've got a splendid view of almost the entire colony. So if attackers come from the land, they'll come down there. All I have to do now is wait.
Brown hyena. Hyenas, most of the time, feed on carrion, but they will certainly take a defenseless seal pup. The carcass is brought back to be shared with the family. All dogs communicate by smell, but none do so more eloquently than hyenas. Their scent comes from a pouch beneath the tail and proclaims who they are and how they are. They also use scent to post notices around their territory. An individual will put one up every quarter of a mile or so.
And this is one of their message posts. The smear at the top there comes from the anal gland of one of the hyena family. And that smell fades very rapidly and is a message to other members of the group saying, I was here half an hour ago or quarter of an hour ago, so there's no point inserting this patch for food. But beneath it, there's a second one, which was milky white when it was first pasted on. Its smell is long-lasting, and it's intended to be a message to other clans of hyenas saying, keep out, this land is ours.
So their noses enable the hyenas to divide up the desert between their clans, and so ensure that no source of food is neglected. These dogs crop their territory in a very different way, racing along special paths through the undergrowth. They live in the rain-drenched forests of the Amazon and run in a strict order, the females in front headed by the most senior, the males following obediently behind. They prefer wet country around the banks of the numerous rivers, but they're not common anywhere. In fact, these are the most mysterious, the least known of all dogs, the South American bush dog. The leading females sprinkle their scent as high as they can. The males do no more than cock a leg. Their bodies are also well adapted to their particular environment. Their short legs make it easy for them to run through the tangled undergrowth, and they have skin between their toes which helps them swim. They're the only dogs with webbed feet. The rodents whose paths through the bush they often use are also their prey, but they'll pounce on water-living creatures as well if and when they find them. The trouble with that is that very few water-living animals have any scent. So when these dogs hunt, they have to use their eyes as much as their noses. And if you want to look for things underwater, you have to be prepared to get your face wet. The pack may accept rules about their running order, but at meal times it's a free-for-all. The luxuriant Amazonian forest may appear to be full of food, but in fact meat here is hard to come by. Not so on the open plains of Africa. Here, there is more meat than anywhere else in the world, so, not surprisingly, there are dogs here too. Hunting dogs. But wildebeest are big animals. To bring one down, these dogs have to hunt together as a team, sometimes as many as 50 of them. They're the most successful of all hunters. 80% of their chases will end in a kill. they've selected the victim, they work together to bring it down. They have only their teeth to get a grip on their prey. They don't have the swiveling wrists that can give a sideways grip, and their claws, unlike those of cats, are not retractile, so they're blunted as a result of so much running. They kill in silence. Too much noise would attract the attention of lions, who are big enough to drive them off a kill. That's also why they bolt down as much meat as they can, as quickly as possible. Their bellies full, they return to the pups and the females who've been waiting back at the dens, which may be several miles away. The pups can hardly wait. They beg for food by frantically licking the mouths of the adults. All these pups are the offspring of the senior pair, the alpha male and female. Normally, no others will breed, so the returning hunters are either the pups' uncles and aunts or brothers and sisters. They squabble among themselves, as youngsters do. But they also give food to one another, as they will do throughout their lives. The adults share domestic duties, the young females helping their mother, the alpha female, to look after her latest litter of pups.
So, dogs, by and large, are sociable animals. A fact that people who live up here in the north of North America have taken advantage of since early times, training them to pull their sledges as a team. And up here too lives the biggest of all the dog family, and it too lives in packs. If animals are to work in a team, they need to be able to communicate with one another. Sometimes it's possible for you to communicate with them.
Wolves howl to warn neighbouring packs to keep their distance, but they also do so to reunite their own pack if it's got scattered after a long hunt. And as they assemble again, they visibly delight in one another's company. This pack too, like that of African hunting dogs, is ruled by an alpha pair, who are the only ones to breed. But there's also a strict hierarchy among the other members, one for males and one for females. This is reinforced daily by mouth-licking, crawling and mounting. These rituals become particularly intense just before the pack leaves on a hunt. It's a bonding session that reminds each hunter of its place in the team. Invaluable in the struggle to come. And off they go. Those distant dots are their targets. Elk, the North American equivalent of the European red deer. Snowdrifts will make the chase difficult. The wolf's pads are particularly broad, but in really deep snow, the elk's long legs give them the advantage. And in such country as this, there's little chance of taking them by surprise. So the chase is likely to be a long and exhausting one. One of the stags is flagging, and the pack have managed to separate it from the main herd. Another sprints past close by and confuses things. Most of the wolves stick to their original quarry. They have, after all, been harrying it for some time, and it may be tiring. But it's got away. Another wolf is chasing the stag that ran by them earlier. That escapes too. Only 1 in 10 wolf hunts is successful. The weather worsens. It's now over a week since the wolves fed. They're getting desperate. They have no alternative but to continue to follow the herd. Now they have a real chance. A female has become isolated and is close to the end of her strength. She can go no further, but even now 2 wolves are not strong enough to bring her down. But then the rest of the pack arrive. Now she has no chance. The herd moves on. The herds of North America are rivaled in size by those in Africa, and it's here in the Old World that the other great group of hunters first appeared. This is the original home of the cats. There's no problem at all in finding the hunters that dominate these hunting grounds. Lions. With all this meat walking around within a few hundred yards, they're taking no notice whatsoever. The fact of the matter is that most lions do most of their hunting at night. The daytimes
at that time. It's very hot. Now it's near the middle of the day, and the lions have found a nice, cool place to rest. And during the day, too, it's so bright that their prey can see them coming. Hunting is then very difficult. Much better to hunt during the darkness of the night.
Their eyes are more sensitive than ours, but neither they nor I can see these lights. They're infrared and visible only to our special cameras.
Lions hardly ever roar during the day. It's very much a nighttime thing. And now in the darkness there are a number of them roaring just around here. There are two I know within 3 or 4 yards of where I am now, and there's a third perhaps 20 yards over there, though it's difficult to tell because it's pitch black except for just a faint moonlight. The 3 of them belong to the same bride, and they're communicating, telling one another where they are. Those are not aggressive roars, they are communication roars, but they are quite enough to chill the blood in the blackness of the night.
Especially when you know that the lions making them are within a few yards of you, but you can't see them. A hunt is beginning. The shine in their eyes comes from our infrared lights reflected by a mirror-like membrane at the back of their eyes. That, together with pupils that open far wider than ours, enables them to see 8 times better at night than we can. The big male is going too. The cubs are bringing up the rear. Slightest noise could stampede the zebras. The lioness's jaws are clamped in the zebra's throat. They're throttling it. Now there is food for all, so much in fact that there's very little squabbling. Dawn and the bride are still lounging around with full bellies. The zebra know that, for the moment at least, there's no danger. Considering how powerful and aggressive lions can be, life within the pride is remarkably peaceful and harmonious. Just as they hunt together, so they also help one another in bringing up the young. A nursing mother will allow cubs belonging to others to take her milk. The lionesses in a pride are nearly always sisters, but even so, such cooperation and tolerance is remarkable and very unusual indeed among cats. Most cats are solitaries, living and hunting by themselves. These are the cubs of a single mother, a cheetah. She has a heavy responsibility. Neither her sisters nor the cub's father help in bringing them up. Finding food for them and for herself is not easy. She moves off, and they follow. But they're likely to be more of a hindrance than a help. Impala are grazing nearby. They move away as she approaches, but they don't panic. Unless a cheetah is within 30 yards, they can outrun her. She knows that too, and doesn't want to waste her energy. She won't charge unless she gets really close. The cubs seem to realize that an attack is imminent and settle down to watch. Is she close enough? To drift away. She starts a sprint. Now she's running flat out. She's bounding so swiftly that her feet are off the ground for almost half the time. She's almost flying. The race is over. The slowest will not compete again. Cheetahs are the fastest thing on four legs. Their backbones are so supple that their hind legs can reach forward on either side of the front. She's so slim and agile, she can rival a gazelle in dodging and swerving. Unusually, another has come to share her prize. It's probably a grown-up cub from last year's litter. She wouldn't tolerate anyone else. Her slim, athletic build is now a liability. Heavier animals like lions could push her off her kill, so she and her cubs eat fast.
All big cats are widely distributed, but one is particularly adaptable. It lives in tropical rainforests from the Congo to Vietnam, in deserts from Algeria to Iran, and here in the rocky hills of northern India.
Prey is scarce here. By far the most abundant are the domestic animals that those other great meat-eaters, human beings, keep to consume themselves.
The villagers know that this cat usually hunts at night, so every evening they drive the goats into this thorn-walled enclosure to keep them safe.
Even a big cat won't be able to cross this.
It's now absolutely dark, and all I have to help me is a torch. Beyond its beam, there is absolute blackness. So I feel pretty vulnerable, because this big cat can move at night in total darkness. Could be anywhere. But we do have infrared cameras in this village. So if it does come, we'll see it. And this thatched hut is our Technical Operations Control Center.
We've got 3 cameras stationed around the village, each with its own monitor, so whichever way the raider comes, we should see it. I can scan each one of them. There it is, a silent, moving shadow.
It's a leopard.
A female, and she's moving down the main path through the village. That's our hut. She's just beyond the curtain across the doorway, within a few yards of me. But I'm not what she's looking for. She's leaving. The flock has survived without loss for another night. Of all the big cats, the leopard is perhaps the most accomplished stalker and the one that is least seen. In Africa, it hunts gazelles. with the utmost care. No dog can equal the stealth with which cats can stalk, nor the swift efficiency with which they dispatch their victims.
I'm in the frozen north, and this is the trail of the biggest of the cats, the tiger, and the biggest of the tigers, a Siberian tiger, surely the most formidable hunter of all.
Until human beings devised weapons for themselves, this was the most powerful killer on Earth, the top predator. Few creatures could escape it. Nothing could threaten it. But that has now changed.
Hunting animals need hunting grounds, and that inevitably brings them in conflict with humanity. Once there were tigers all over Asia, from Sumatra and Bali in the south, India in the west, up to Siberia in the north. But sadly, over much of those areas, the tiger has disappeared. And even this one is in captivity. Big cats like the same sort of meat as human beings, as well as eating human beings. So it's scarcely surprising that the two don't coexist very easily.
But once these magnificent meat-eaters were the lords of the land. The ultimate in lethal grace and beauty.